Hello there, I'm Alex, and welcome. I have played varying amounts of the first three Forza Horizon open world racing games, but I never got around to Forza Horizon 4, until now in 2021. This is going to be my first-hand thoughts and also a re-evaluation of how the game holds up now. There are some things I really like about it, and some things I'm not so hot on, which I do have a few suggestions for to possibly make future entries even better. This is all PC gameplay, by the way, and it's good timing because in a day or two, Horizon 4 is making its way to Steam. This is the first time a Forza game has been on Steam, so that means tons of new PC players are likely inbound. Since we're already talking about it, the PC performance of this game is surprisingly god tier, especially directly compared to Horizon 3. On a single RTX 3080, I was able to capture for all this in full 4K well over 60 FPS at maxed out settings, even with an overkill 8x MSAA on top of that. This has to be the best performance, or at least tied for the best with Doom Eternal, for a modern engine's visual optimization, in my experience. Since this is a raw gameplay focused game and I'm a gameplay first focused gamer, that is exactly what I love to see. Now, if you have never played one of the Horizon games, they are giant open worlds filled with different racing venues that all build up to unlocking big finale showcase events. These pit you against everything and anything other than normal cars, which is a racing concept I still somewhat struggle to wrap my head around. Yes, they are visually cool set-piece moments, but when you really boil it all down, it's kinda just like one big time trial. I would prefer these to feel a bit more challenging and set apart from the main races, since they are kind of like the boss events of this game. There are not too many good examples of racing games with boss style of races, but it would be neat for them to implement something similar to what the game Descenders has done for the next Horizon game. In Descenders, the bosses are actually big tricky jumps that require you to correctly balance your speed, timing, weight distribution, and landing impact to overcome these little physics challenges. They managed to make a simple ramp feel like something you need to actually overcome, instead of just something you mindlessly blast off of with no concerns at all, which is kinda like how it feels when ramping off of stuff in Horizon. You pretty much have magic moon cars. The vehicle handling in Horizon 4 is pretty solid and changes up a lot depending on what you're driving, but the car's impact with the world around it and the other vehicles could be a bit improved. Collisions and catching air feel somewhat like playing with toy cars, which makes sense if you're playing the LEGO themed expansion, but for the real cars, it makes them feel somewhat hollow. The core racing feels great, absolutely no denying that, and I realize that the mainline Forza series is where the heavier feel comes in, but still, I would prefer these cars to feel a bit more grounded in these environments. The changing of the seasons is a big part of Horizon 4, and it does help to make you feel a bit more connected to its world. It's pretty cool to see the entire map shift through the various seasons and change up how everything looks and somewhat how the vehicles control. This was a nice addition. Now, getting to the general open world formula of the Horizon series is probably the one area where I would prefer a soft reboot of the game's core formula for the next entry. Kinda like what Assassin's Creed did going from Syndicate to Origins, rethinking how the games play. From the first to the fourth Horizon game, the open world is mostly just for cutting through fields to get to the next race, with little incentive to explore in between. The barn finds are a decent concept, and there are a few bonus signs you can crash through here and there, but I would prefer a greater focus on exploration and even some difficulty to exploring the world itself. Take the Spin Tire series for example, Snow Runner here. Although not a racing game, it is an open world driving game. It does a stellar job at making almost every inch of its large environments feel memorable and realistically tangible by turning small muddy inclines, bodies of water, and steep cliffsides into vehicular navigation puzzles. You have to put in a ton of effort to haul resources to certain hard-to-reach places on each map to clear roadblocks or create life-saving shortcuts, which add a big sense of accomplishment once completed. That's all done in just the open-world progression and questing system, no first-place finish is required. I realize that the very mainstream-focused target audience of the Forza series can't have you spinning your tires stuck in the mud for like 15 minutes, but using some principles like this could make specifically the open-world portion of the Horizon games feel more rewarding to explore. Again, I'm bringing this all back around to more challenge outside of the core race faster than other cars around a track. This is an open-world game. The team behind the Horizon series have completely nailed the core racing experience and vehicle customization, and using just a little inspiration from what others are doing could only improve the next entry. Now, like I briefly mentioned before, there is also a big LEGO expansion DLC with its own giant map, cars, and new things to be working towards. Although I haven't had any affinity for the LEGO brand since I was like 8, the overall design of this map might be even better than the main campaign's map. You can really tell that the team had a blast while they created this area for sure. There is also the other expansion, Fortune Island, which has its own map with some really awesome weather effects and has more of a focus on solving light exploration challenges. This provides something more along the lines of what I was referencing before, and anything that makes you actually care about looking around the environment you're in gets a big double thumbs up for me. Now, shifting gears, that's a card joke for you. The Horizon games have always forcibly tried to make you social with its hard to avoid online integration, which some might like and some might not. Almost everything you do is tied to leaderboards or directly or indirectly racing against others. There are community-made races you can take on instead of the main ones, or you can customize your own event and even then open it up to online matchmaking. Since this is a 2018 video game, of course they have a Battle Royale mode in there as well. Although it wasn't really my thing, still it had a little bit more creativity to its design than I would have initially thought. Everyone starts with a level 1 car and have to aimlessly drive around and challenge others to point-to-point races. The player who makes it to that point first gets a random higher tier car, making them even stronger, and the loser gets kicked out. It's not quite 100% balanced or anything or something to take too seriously, but it was less of an afterthought than I assumed. This entire online suite for a racing game is easily the best one out there. I'm not even sure if anything else comes close, and if I was just a little bit more gearhead competitive, I could see this all having near endless replayability. Now, to start winding down my closing thoughts, there is a gargantuan amount of content in Forza Horizon 4, and that was far from everything, but those were the main standout things I really wanted to talk about here today. The core racing is super solid and most importantly fun. The ease in which you can visually customize any car with great community-made designs is still second to none, and although its open world formula gets somewhat samey quickly, the overall breadth of what you get here for however much you're paying for the game is easily worth it. So is Forza Horizon 4 the ultimate racing game? I could definitely see how it might be for some, but for me personally, I would peg it more at a, sure, it's pretty good. Although I might not be the main intended audience, as someone who only likes to play about one racing game a year, if they add some of those things I mentioned to expand the open world element of the game, I could easily see the next one being my absolute favorite. Those were just my thoughts on it, but I'm open to your ideas on the franchise as well, so let me know them, and I'm also curious how many people out there actually finished the game, because there's just a ton to it. Thanks for joining me in this reconsideration. This has been Alex, and have a great time in either Forza Horizon 4, maybe a possible future 5th entry, or whatever other racing series you might prefer. I'll see you next time.